Hi, my name is Jordan Crawford, and I do go-to-market for B2B companies like Main Street, Vouch, Pharos, Freshpaint, and many more. So today we're talking about how companies go to market in 2022, why generally the things that they're trying from the 2008 era are not serving them, and what's a better approach for targeting and identifying and messaging your best customers in 2022. So let's dive in. So the first pattern that we see is that founders do sales and marketing manually. And generally this works well for three reasons. The first is the founders know what works and what failed. They've tried it all. They've tried going after a bunch of different segments with a bunch of different personas and a bunch of different markets. They may not use that language, but they've tried it all. They know what doesn't work. They also know why your existing customers buy. So they have a really, really good model about, is it this pain? Is it that pain? What are the types of phrases? How do customers talk about their problems? They just have a really good customer insight after having hundreds, sometimes thousands of conversations with customers. They also have clout and experience. So generally they've worked in the industry for a decade. They're a founder. So if they message someone that's not a founder, that comes with clout. Basically, this comes down to they have a better mental model about who you're selling to, what the problem is, and what the value prop is. So it's not like they got into a Blue Angel jet overnight and learned how to fly it. They started with a prop plane, and then they got into a Boeing, and then they became elite at this activity. And so that's kind of pattern one. The second pattern is channels that you don't control keep you growing. So this is like inbound, maybe it's PR, you get some benefit being as part of YC, maybe it's referrals, PLG, SEO, and people self-select their problems. So you don't really have to sell to those people. They come in and say, I want to buy, and then your sales reps just say, great, here's the MasterCard or Visa. So this is like fishing in this kind of environment, right, where things are jumping onto your boat. It's much different to have to prep the fish versus have to cast your line and hope they bite. So then there's a model here where you want to control your growth. And you're basically ready to go fishing, but it's much harder to spearfish. And this is when companies take one of two different paths. And I'm going to describe first the path that I see a lot of companies taking and where I don't see there being long-term value, and then a much better path that's a much more well thought out path. So the first path, I call it more car parts. So I want to grow, and the best way to make my car go faster is throw additional carburetors at it, throw some more pistons at the problem, add a second exhaust. And so what does that look like? Well, these are tactics that people try. So they hire sales to fuel growth. So when something is working, the first tactic is to just throw more dedicated resources at the thing. So you start with activities, right? So you hire a hungry sales rep, you buy Zoom Info and Sales Navigator for them, and you have them send one-on-one LinkedIn messages, one-on-one emails. And when it fails, you blame or fire the sales rep. You say, you did not do a good job at reaching out to my ideal customers. You start spending money on other channels, right? So you're like, oh, well, maybe it's not sales. Maybe I need to try marketing channels. Maybe I need to hire experts. Maybe I should have Jordan help me with this problem. And when it works, you throw more sales reps the problem, and you write one-to-one random emails to random companies. So it's just whatever you find, you pick out of the hat. Maybe you saw news. Maybe you saw that they raised. And so this is the scared sales rep, the excited sales rep. You hire someone right out of college and you say, just go for it. And they are rearing to go, and they will go sell whatever you point them in that general direction. And most of these messages kind of look like this. Hi, Jordan. Me. Hi, Jordan. It looks like we're in the tech space, which is basically saying, hey, Jordan, it looks like you got a nose and you got two eyes, right? It's the same message everyone has because it's the same set of data. Tactic 2 is to try more channels. So if direct sales doesn't work, they're like, great, maybe we need to change channels. Maybe it's a channel problem. So let's start spending money on channels. So let's throw money at Meta, right? It's Meta now. LinkedIn. Let's test different messaging here in these variety of different channels. Let's try different targeting tactics. How do we identify people that might be in need now? Let's hire experts, right? So let's hire different agencies. Maybe there's an agency that really understands this market. Fire agencies. That agency didn't work. We need to try a different agency. Let's try their channels. Product-led growth. Let's try partnerships. Maybe there are people that know our existing customers. What about SEO? Maybe we just publish content in this general area and then people will find us. And when it fails, you blame the agencies. The agency didn't understand. Maybe it's a targeting or messaging problem. Maybe we just need to adjust some of that. Hey, you know what? ROI is really low, but our deals are $50,000. Let's just keep going, right? So throw channels at the problem, or sort of blame the agency that you hired as not doing a good job. So tactic 3 here is to build or pivot your way out of it. So you've tried a bunch of sales stuff, tried a bunch of marketing stuff, and basically you're like, okay, great. We tried those things. Maybe it's the product. So when marketing or sales stalls, maybe I could build new innovative features. We've heard from our customers, they want this one feature. If I just have this one feature, we'll be different. Maybe I'll lower prices. Maybe it's a pricing problem. You know, customers sometimes say that our pricing is too expensive. Maybe we should change our pricing. Maybe we just need to change our persona. We've been going after CEOs. Maybe we should go after heads of marketing at Series B stage companies. Maybe I change product direction. I've got all this great code. Maybe instead of selling to heads of marketing, I should go sell to heads of engineering. We can just repurpose some of this stuff. And so you try a bunch of different things, and this generally fails because companies have access to the same data. So your go-to-market is really kind of sloppy. Sales channels are saturated with the same message, and basically all these tools allow you to sort of spam at volume. And so when it works, you couple these things together and you got a great Toyota Corolla. It'll get you to where you need to go. You can't really make it go any faster. And when it doesn't work, you make some progress. There's some paths that work, and you've got a really efficient unicycle. It's arguably better than walking, but it doesn't really get you to where you need to go. There's a second path here, and this is the path that we take with all of our customers, and this is what we recommend. And the best companies, Gorgeous, Main Street, Vouch, they understand the imperatives to understand and score your entire market by pain, understand who is in pain, who has this problem, not who I can sell to, but who has this problem. You want to qualify those accounts at scale, and that goes way beyond, oh, you've got over 100 people, you can buy my product. You just raised money, I like money, can I have your money? And building a repeatable motion to target your ideal prospects. This is a blueprint. It's a blueprint for your entire go-to-market strategy. Now, this doesn't produce results overnight because you need to do a lot of things to be able to understand who are your customers, what pain are they in, score that pain. So I'm going to walk you through how we think about go-to-market and how I suggest you might think about go-to-market. So step 0 is you have to abandon blame and bad ideas. I see this all the time. I heard one founder talk to his head of go-to-market and says, everyone that has Salesforce needs us. Just email everyone that has Salesforce. They need our plugin because they have Salesforce. They clearly have this problem. Sales reps will say something like, well, we need to buy more tools because it's really hard to connect with people on LinkedIn and scale. Sales leaders will say, we need to hold our sales reps accountable. They need to be calling 100 people a day. They just need to increase the volume. And marketing will say, hey, we drive qualified leads. How come the sales team isn't closing them? I think this is all a root cause is that there's no alignment on strategy. This is why you see RevOps teams. RevOps teams are trying to solve this because they are responsible for revenue. They don't have to fight between sales and marketing or a founder that doesn't understand. This is about having a strategy. So let's start with how you do this. So step 1 is you need to anchor on your customers. That's where you have to plant your flag. And if you say, but Jordan, I only have 20 customers, I only have 50 customers. If you don't have enough to anchor on your customers, you're not ready to do this yet. I think that you should still manually be selling. You need to have that day-to-day combat. You need to be in the arena with your customers because that's where these models come from. They're not about who you think you can benefit or who might buy. And this is the problem that I see all the time is that founders think, oh, well, these are the types of people that buy. We should just go contact them. This information is rooted in your customers. So the best ideas come from your customers and people who have already made the decision to pay you for a problem they had. So let's look at what we do for our customers, which is we run them through homework here. And so we look at buying moments by pain. So we call this a top-down analysis. So think about all your customers. What is the moment that they came to your product to say, I need this now? And you should be able to chat with them. They said, well, we hired a new VP of growth, and he had come from a company that used a product similar to this, and so that's why we signed you, because our founder knew your founder, and the head of growth understood this, and that's what led us to buy. So you need to think about all the conversations that you had with your customers, and you need to do this with the folks that have the best connection with your customers. That might be the founder. That might be the head of sales. It's probably one of those two people. It might be a BDR or a sales rep. They might have a better understanding. So independent of specific customers, this is the problem that you're solving and the key moments for your customers. So that's the top-down analysis. Now we do a bottoms-up analysis, which is look at these exact pain-based examples that we defined in step 1 and reverse into that. So tell me about exact customers that had those moments. Describe 2 or 3 of them. What was the moment? So anchor that data. Again, it's all about anchoring. Then I want to know about gold accounts, right? So who are the people that are your highest 10 ACV customers, and what are the patterns that they bought at? And those might be different than other customers. Then what we do is we actually download this context for all customers. So in this case, we'll sign an MNDA, but we want to understand every piece of the value chain for your customers, so we can say, there's about 10 different models in here. There's about 5 different models about why people buy. Then where we spend a lot of our time is in the total serviceable market. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but these are company level filters to identify accounts that you can realistically serve today. That's a super important point. Realistically serve today. The way that a lot of people define the TSM, which is total serviceable market, is, boy, if I could sell to anyone, these are all the people in the world that should want to buy me. That's not how to do this. Segmentation is super important. That's who's your ideal customer and who's the buyer persona there. So if you send the same message to founders, to engineers at fintech companies versus Fortune 500 companies, you're going to have a bad time, right? If you pizza when you french fry, you're going to have a bad time. It's a South Park reference. Market differentiation. So how are you different to your main competitors? So people will like to sort of fluff themselves up here and say, oh, well, we're so much better. It's like, well, the way that you should think about this is in the eyes of your customer, how are you better? How would they describe why they bought you versus your competitor? Reference customer is super important. Ideally, you want to be able to have a reference customer buy the pain that you're targeting against. And referral network, it's always good to explore trusted connections. It's a good way to do go-to-market. I won't dive in too much that, but happy to chat more about that later. So the second step here is once you've downloaded all that context, you have a framework to do that. And we have a spreadsheet here that I'm happy to make a copy for you. Just comment below and I will send you a personalized link for you. You want to score your entire total service addressable market. So you need to do it by pain from the customer's perspective. So this is not a TAM from your perspective, and the TAM, total addressable market, is selfish scoring. This is, Jordan, if I could get money from any company, which company would I want to get money from? That's what a TAM is. A TSM is selfless scoring. If a customer needs me now, how do I identify that? And so it's from your customer's perspective. And the rubric to think about here is if I picked a random company from that TSM, 80% should be likely to be qualified to buy your product or service. Super important. And it's not limited to employees and locations. It's not enough. We need at least one qualifier that is most likely to indicate that they care about you. So this is generally used to determine account value, but it's by pain. So it's not, well, they have 50 employees and we charge per seat, so they're a good fit. No, this is on their website. One of their key value props is security, and we're a security product. That's a good way to think about this. And if we scored your existing customers where we had no information, 8 out of 10 would look like they're good customers on the surface. So that's really important. Sorry about the capitalization here, but this effort should be 60% of your go-to-market motion. So you should spend most of your time here. And you want to create pain-based playbooks. This is really important. Step 3. And a playbook is a structure of public data that identifies companies that are likely in pain. So here are the components of a playbook. It's only companies in your total serviceable addressable market. It's focused on one ICP. So that might be a certain combination of TAM filters, right? Or TSM filters. But it's really, you're not going to go to a fintech company the same way that you're going to go to a MarTech company, for example. It has one persona in mind, so VP of General Counsel. It speaks to structured pain based on data. So in this case, we looked at companies that had a terms of service that were out of date. And targeting is 100x better than 100x more personalization. So this is how I think about this effort, is going to market is your ability to articulate value against their current pain. Now, automated prospecting is like, hey, Jordan, I see you got 2 feet, you got a left thumb, and then I can help you, Jordan. That's how most of this looks like. Now, manual prospecting is much better than this, and the greatest BDRs and SDRs know how to do this. And they say, hey, Jordan, I saw that you just installed Segment recently, and that you were at a company that used to use Segment, and I noticed that you had a spike in your traffic. I put all these things together it seems to me that you need better information. So we do blah, blah, blah. So that is how manual prospecting is done. Really, really hard to scale. But pain-based automated prospecting, because we've scored the entire market and we're watching for these pain-based signals, then you can scale it. So you don't need to add more personalization to really scale this, because you're going to the market by pain. All right, if you get the targeting right and your prospects are in pain, you can usually just describe the pain to them and they respond. So if you do a really good job of pain targeting, and I go to someone that has a stomach ache and I say, hey, I'm Jordan, I love the Appalachian Mountains, and I'm good at cartwheels, and I won a badminton trophy when I was in high school. Hey, by the way, is your stomach in pain? Terrible messaging, but if they are in pain, they'll be like, absolutely. Do you have something for my pain? So let's look at playbook concepts here. These are ways that you can think about scoring and understanding that pain. So you can look at ratios that are out of whack. So if they have 100 employees and 50 of them are in customer success or customer support, they're probably way over indexing in people there, and maybe your tool can help that. What about rates, so delta? So you notice that every month they've been growing their traffic by 10%, and now it's 50%. So they've experienced an inflection point. Now you need a theory about why this matters to your product, but that's an example of a rate change. Rank, we scored the entire market, and you are number 3. Great job. Raises. So generally people use this information way wrong. I see you raise money. I like money. Can I have your money? That's how people use this raise data. But there are some things that change in terms of raises. And so, for example, for Vouch, after you cross $5 million, your startup insurance needs change. And so that's a good time to reach out, because it actually is related to a problem that you don't know you have, but I know you have. What are some reasonable assumptions that you can make? Maybe I can say, hey, Jordan, I see that you joined as a VP of growth. I looked at your previous tech stack at your previous company, and I noticed that your new company doesn't have all that great tech that you used to use for. Are you taking that tech over from your last company to your new company? That's a reasonable assumption. Are there things that are doing that are risky? So we're looking at companies right now and scanning their legal docs and making understanding about what are they doing in their legal docs. When was it last updated? Hey, Jordan, your terms of service in California was updated 3 years ago. There's been a huge legal decision since that time. Did you know that you're putting yourself at risk for CCPA because of a change? Relations. This is a cool one to mine. So one of the things that we've done for our clients is look at the other people that they used to work with, at major brands, right? So to say, hey, we used to work together at that company. Remember when that thing happened at that time we were together? So that doesn't feel like a sales email, right? It feels like a structured approach to approach someone. Riches, what can you do to make them money? So if you have a way to actually calculate the pain that they're in and how much money that they're spending. So one of the ways that we did this for a customer was to look at a competitor and look at their traffic and say, you're probably paying about X dollars a month for this thing. We're much cheaper. Ideally, you don't want to gauge on price there, but if you can actually calculate the amount of money that they're spending or time they're wasting, that's a great thing. So for example, another pattern that we've used here is, we know that you've had a job open for X amount of time. That means that you probably spent Y amount of hours every month. We could save you that amount of time. References, you really want to reference customer by pain. So you want to reference a customer that is in that same pain as them. That's important. Are there facts? So can you actually talk to them about what's happening with their competitors, or do you have a piece of information that they might find super useful? Do you have free resources? So in many cases, your expertise is a fantastic resource. Your network is a fantastic resource. So you can offer them something besides a sale. and has something changed very recently at their company. This might be something in the news. This might be they relaunched their website. It could be that they've hired some key roles. It could be that they've had a layoff. It could be a variety of things, but recency is another way to think about these things. So let's talk about copy now and how this all comes together. So this particular piece of copy had a 32% reply rate because I did my research, and I did it in a scalable way too. So this is not someone manually researching all this information. So his company opening experiments. Hi first, I start every email that way. I looked through company's LinkedIn presence, and I noticed that some of your recent ads aren't getting the right kind of engagement. All right, well, what does that mean? Specifically, I saw, and we pulled the commenter name, and we pulled their title, and we pulled their country, and it didn't seem like a good lead for you. So in this case, we found someone that was targeting the U.S. market and had people in non-U.S. markets with titles that weren't right for them comment. And we looked at their similar web. It looks like you're spending at least X amount. So actually, we could calculate how much money they were spending by the percent of traffic that they were getting from similar web, from these sites like LinkedIn, etc. And if you could be 100% certain that only customers like a customer that's in their same boat, would you be open to experimenting? Here's who this person is. Here's why you should act now. Here's a reference customer that's related. If you could know that only target companies like X came from, would that be interesting to you? Signature. And by the way, if you need help implementing this, we can. To overcome these challenges, you need to think differently. And the pattern one challenge, we talked about the founder having basically done all the sales. This usually fails because the sales rep doesn't have industry context. They don't know why people buy. They have no clout to make people take meetings, and there's no good way to scale that founder outreach, right? And so it's both a translation and a scale problem. So it's two problems masquerading as one. Founder sales don't scale, so you can't do the same thing that you're doing to get your next set of customers. And so I would argue here that the problem is you need to solve two problems. First and foremost, you need to translate all that context that you've had as a founder or even the first salesperson and download it into a structured way so that the next person that comes on can easily understand your customer pain points. And the second problem is that you need to figure out, how do I scale this with a better idea than more founder sales? The second pattern challenge, which is sales reps have fielded inbound and they're often asked to start doing outbound. This is really hard because sales reps are used to, I got all I have to do is pick up the line and say MasterCard or Visa. And so it usually fails because the sales reps have never had to run a true outbound sales process. They're often given woefully inefficient tools to do this, like ZoomInfo, etc. And ZoomInfo is fantastic for contact information, but does not tell you pain. There's nothing about pain there. They're asked to invent messaging. So the SDR that has been taking inbound things, just invent messaging and write to people. And there's no good way for them to scale their process because they're completely under-resourced. It's a treasure map hunting with no map. So you're basically asking your reps to go dig, and hopefully one day you'll find gold. So that's all I have for you. And so if you'd like to chat more about how to think about go-to-market, I'm happy to share you the resources that we create for our customers. I think there's a much better way to go to market in 2022. And the biggest challenge that we've seen is that generally companies have to struggle with this. They have to experience the pain for themselves. We talk about pain. They have to try it the bad way. They have to spam the world. They have to run targeted ads. They have to experience this. And generally, they will either say, we need better ideas, which those are the kind of best companies that we see, or they'll say, how can we do more of the ideas that are kind of working? And in B2B, this is a siren song because generally, if you scale the thing that's not working, it's okay because the deal sizes are so big. It's not a sustainable way. Email reply rates are dropping like crazy because a lot of companies do this. And so I suspect that in the next 5 years or so, this tactic won't work at all, and people will be scrambling to have better ideas. So this is my better idea for how you should go to market. And by the way, if you do this, outbound is just the first channel for you. You can power ads with this data. You can power SEO with this data. You have a really more nuanced way for talking to your customers because you're taking the patterns that have already worked for you through a variety of channels and figuring out, how do I identify all of the companies in market for that solution now? thank you so much for watching my presentation today, and I am more than happy to chat with you. And you should congratulate yourself. You made it all the way to the end, and hopefully you've learned something very interesting about how to go to market in 2022. Thanks.